Welcome back to the Boo Tragedies, man. We're gonna hop into the 53-man roster predictions today, and we're gonna just start off with like the for sure's. These guys shouldn't be debatable. It's about 35 to 40 guys that are gonna be guaranteed on the team. We'll go over those guys first, and then we'll get to the guys that's kind of like on the bubble and stuff like that. Now, obviously, this is considering everyone makes it healthy through training camp and stuff like that. But these guys will be for sure on the team. Quarterbacks: Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, those guys are locks. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. Wide receivers: Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, Deontay Hardy. I want to put him in a special teams category down there for the lock because he's technically not a lock at receiver, but you get the point. Tight end: Taysom Hill, Adam Charlton. Those guys are going to be locks. Offensive line: Penning, Pete, McCoy, Ruiz, Ramchick, Hurst, Throckmorton, and Landon Young. All of those guys played last year except Penning because he's a rookie, obviously. Those guys are going to be locked. Then special team: Will Lutz, Blake Gilligan, Zach Wood, JT Gray, who he's a safety, but I put him as a gunner because that's why he'll be on the team. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we have Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, Shad Tuttle, David Onyemata, Pete Warner, Demario Davis, Adebo Lattimore, Roby, Gardner Johnson, safety or corner, whatever you want to put him as, Alante Taylor, Marcus May, Tyrann Mathieu, PJ Williams. I think all of these guys are locks, to be on the team. I think that puts us at like 37. And just looking at this, you can kind of tell, obviously, we're going to need to add receivers, running backs, tight end, defensive tackle, linebackers, for sure, super thin. So I'll kind of go over who I think will make the team and add some of these guys to this list. Next up, I'll add the defensive guys that are kind of on the bubble but will probably make this team. And to make this easier, I put those guys in bold. We can start at defensive end. Tano, he's going to make this team called Granderson. I think those guys will round out the defensive end position. Then at defensive tackle, Kentavious Street and Jaleel Johnson. I do have them guys making the team as the other two defensive tackles. And linebackers, I think this is the biggest one, for the Saints. Andrew Dowell, DeMarco Jackson, Eric Wilson. I think those guys will run out the linebacker positions. I do not want to see Caden Ellis, and I do not want to see Zach Bond make this team. I think we've seen enough. Those guys are at best special teams guys. Zach Bond, we drafted in the 3rd round, but sometimes you just have to cut ties, with these guys. He just hasn't been good for the Saints, and I don't think he'll make the team this season. And then at safety, we have Smoke Monday, will be the undrafted guy. I think he'll make this team. I think he'll be a real good special teams guy, to start off, and hopefully one day he shows enough where he can play safety for us as well. Now for the offensive guys, we're going to start with running back. We're going to go with Tony Jones Jr. I think he had a pretty good preseason last year. Just got injured, didn't really get to show what he could do for this team. And then we have Abram Smith. I think he'll make the team this year over Dwayne Washington. Obviously having that linebacker experience, he's going to be a better special teams guy, and he ran for 1,600 yards in college his final season. So I think he'll make this team. Receiver, this isn't a shock. I just didn't put them with the for sure's, even though they're basically, this receiver, core is probably set. Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith. I think both of those guys will make the team. Then at tight end, I got Juwan Johnson, and I think Lucas Crawl will make the team over Nick Vannett. Only reason why Nick Vannett has a slight chance for me is just because he's the best blocker out of this bunch. We basically have 4 tight ends who all really can't block, but they're all going to be really good receiving threats. And then on the offensive line, I'm going to add Forrest Lamp. He's going to run out that offensive line. We usually carry 9 guys, 5 starters, and then a couple guys that are versatile, behind them. But with this lineup, I only have 52 guys, man. We're going to have to get a 53rd. So we'll take another look at this lineup in totality right now. Before we get to this final guy, man, if you made it this far, on the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Like this video, man, if you like this. But we're going to kind of look over this. Obviously, we're going to start with special teams. They're solid. Running backs, to me, they're solid. Receivers are solid. Offensive line, solid. Tight ends are solid. The only thing you can really, make a case for, you can add quarterback. You can make Ian Book active on this roster, especially with Winston coming back from injury. You can run 3 quarterbacks. I can definitely see that happening. Also linebacker, you can carry a 6 linebacker. I can definitely see that happening as well. Defensive tackle, defensive end, I can see that happening. Maybe another safety, probably not, but it's some options the Saints could go. If this was the 52-man roster, and a 53rd guy would need to be added to this team. For me, how this team looks right now, I would say Ian Book. If it played out this way, I would add Ian Book to this roster just because Jameis Winston's coming off an injury. Obviously, you don't want him to get hurt. But if something happened, during the game, you don't want to have just Andy Dalton out there. Obviously, you have Taysom, but we're not even gonna start those rumblings. So you definitely want to have another backup quarterback out there, in my opinion. Maybe Nick Vannett. Maybe you can run 5 tight ends because maybe you'll use Nick Vannett as a fullback. I don't think the Saints will carry a fullback this year. So maybe Nick Vannett could, become that 5th tight end, kind of play that fullback role, have some of them guys on special teams as well. But I just wouldn't carry 5 tight ends in my opinion. Defensive tackle, you could add Malcolm Roach to that, rotate in with those guys. And linebacker, if you want to add Caden Ellis, Zach Bourne, you can add those guys back as well. It's definitely many more guys, that I didn't mention that I'll mention real quick. Jordan Jackson, obviously the defensive tackle we drafted, 6th round. He's going to have an uphill battle with because we're just so good on the defensive line. You got Daniel Sorensen, who everyone was freaking out about. Then you got Dwayne Washington, who's been a special teams key for us at running back, special teams. Adam Prentice, who is the fullback. So if he's the 53rd spot, that wouldn't shock me as well. Taco Charlton, a solid defensive end. Nefi Sewell from Utah. I think he's a really good linebacker, man. If he doesn't make this team, I think someone would end up picking him up. Then you have Bryce Thompson, corner from Tennessee, who I thought was going to be solid. Didn't really get to play last year. Then you have Easop Winston, who's probably my favorite receiver on this team. Not the best, obviously, but one of my favorites to watch. I think he has an outside chance of making this team. So it's plenty of guys, man, that I think could make this team for that 53rd spot if it ended up like this. Let me know who y'all think would make the team. If it went like this, man, who would be the 53rd person on the roster that y'all would add to this team? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, this the Boo Tragedies, and I'm out.